We had a story earlier this week when we had Graham Carr from Concordia University on something I think we'd all expected. I would use the word feared, and that came true. The fact that enrollment is down significantly for out-of-town students, not just from Canada, but of course foreign students as well. The question was by how much, and we found that in the case of Concordia, that's a 28% decrease in enrollment as well as $15 million in lost revenues. Now, while we wait to find out from McGill what their situation is, and all this, of course, as a result of the government's new rules, new restrictions on out-of-town foreign students, bishops managed to somehow get exempted from this, so you might have thought the numbers would be okay or unchanged. Turns out that's not necessarily the case. Sebastien Lebel-Grenier is principal and Vice-Chancellor at Bishop's University. He is on the line. Sebastien, thank you very much for taking the time today. So let's get to it. We all thought we knew bishops got a bit of a pass with respect to the other restrictions put in place for McGill and Concordia, but what are you seeing? What's happened so far?
Yeah, well, this is not unexpected. Basically, the mere fact of the announcement has created a very clear chilling effect. It's put fear into some prospective students as to whether or not they would be welcome if they came to Quebec. It gave an impression that Quebec did not want students coming from other Canadian provinces or coming from abroad. And even though we were exempted from the tuition increases here at Bishop's, nonetheless, it doesn't mean that individual candidates will be knowledgeable of that information. But overall, I think it's really the fear of a bad reception if they come to Quebec.
So, that's obviously something nobody wants to hear, that's a reason, even when you were exempted from this, for students not to come. What did you hear from students, or what did you hear from parents, perhaps, trying to understand how this would affect them?
Right. So for parents, it created uncertainty, and in the face of uncertainty, well, they want what's best for their student, their children. So I think it's just creation of uncertainty, and there was a general fear. This has been talked about much in the media across Canada and even internationally, and there was a fear that Quebec was not a place where people who spoke English were welcomed, and that is absolutely untrue and so unfortunate. As you no doubt know, part of the reason I think we got the exemptions is because the local community really stood up for bishops and said, no, bishops is not a threat to anyone, and actually it's really core to our identity in the Eastern Townships. And therefore, they basically spelled out a message of welcome to all of these students that do come to bishops. So this fear, however much it does not reflect the reality of the lived experiences of our students, it's still a challenge. It's something we've got to dispel, and we can't be fully effective in dispelling that.
So I mentioned the numbers off the top that Concordia is dealing with now. Can you quantify yours? What have you seen specifically?
Right. So these are numbers we're tracking. So, we'll have definitive numbers at the end of September, and that's the date at which students can drop out of courses. But for now, we're tracking at about minus 10% for Canadian out-of-province students. And for international students, we're tracking at about minus 40%. But
Wow.
Although, to be fair, with international students, it's really a combination of the measures and the current discourse in Quebec by the Quebec government, but also evidently the federal measures in limiting the number of study permits for international students. That's really harmed, I'd say, the image of Canada. And what's been going on in Quebec has harmed the image of Quebec internationally.
So even though those rules aren't necessarily in place, just the talk of them is enough to make people think twice.
Correct. And, it's so sad because Canada and Quebec were really seen as incredible destinations to study, especially on the part of foreign students, international students. And all that good work and that good reputation has been severely harmed.
I wonder in the case of Bishop's, a smaller university, actually I have a two-pronged question, and maybe you can answer this, I'm not sure, but when students apply, foreign students apply, do they typically apply to all three and go to the one they choose if they get into all three? How does it usually work?
Oh, that's a good question. Not necessarily, because all three the three English language universities in Quebec are fairly different, So Bishops is a smaller university. It's a much more intimate experience. It's in a beautiful semi-rural setting. So the type of experience, and it's a liberal college essentially. So we have a liberal education model. So the choice is very different. And although you might have some overlap, I think that students really apply to specific institutions according to their objectives.
Okay, so in your case, when you talk about roughly a 10% drop and then a 40% drop in enrollment for international students, I'm guessing a smaller university like Bishops, that's a lot of lost money to have to absorb, whether it's going to be $2.5 million, $3 million, whatever it comes to at the end of the day. What do you do? I mean, do you go to your donors and say, look, we're going through a rough year because of government policy? How do you make that up?
Well, the donors are of course, incredibly generous, and we're really quite lucky to be able to count on their support. But they will typically not pay for operations. They will pay for scholarships, for special projects, and so forth. But they're not interested in compensating the money that the government is not providing for operations. So for us, what it means is that we're going to have to go into a recovery plan, and we're going to have to really tighten our belt and make sure we get back to a balanced budget. And that's going to be on us. So this is putting us in a very difficult situation.
Yeah, I think I believe in asking Graham Carr about this because obviously Concordia's loss is so much bigger here. This results in staff cuts, program cuts. Is that a possibility at Bishops?
Well, it is a possibility. I mean, we're going to have to be very careful with our spending. Now, the guiding principle for us is really to have the most minimal impact on the student experience and the opportunities for students. So we're going to be looking at everything else before we act on things that would directly impact students. And I'm fairly confident. We've got a great community here, and everyone is really focused on the student experience. So it's not going to be without consequences for our community, but we feel that we'll be able to manage this with minimal impact on the quality of the experience for our students.
Yeah, the last thing I would ask, because obviously the government, even though the National Assembly is not yet sitting, I know they're kind of getting ready to. I saw Pascal Derry the other day being asked a question about obviously the Concordia figures, and now you're in the sort of the crosshairs. Are you expecting to sit down with the government again on this? Is this a fait accompli? Do you think anything changes, or because of the money being lost, do you think the government, have you had any discussion with them about what might happen?
Well, we try to keep each other informed, but that being said, yes, I fully expect that we're going to have further discussions this fall. Of course, we'll have to wait till we have absolutely firm figures, and that's going to be at the end of September. But certainly we're going to sit down again with government. Now, what are they going to choose to do? That will be up to them.
And if it's a matter of money, look, first of all, let's be honest. The government said they did this ostensibly because they wanted to level the playing field with French universities. I'm not sure what this does to level that playing field. Do you? Well,
I find this very upsetting. I don't know how arming English language institutions is going to help our French counterparts. They're going through difficult times. Universities generally in Canada are going through difficult times, and I don't see how harming a portion of our universities can be of any help to the other portion.
Yeah. Listen, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, just on a separate topic as we wrap up. There's a liberal leadership campaign that's been underway for quite some time now. Your name came up at the beginning. Have you made any kind of decision going forward?
Oh, you know what? I've just completed a year in this position. I'm entirely committed to Bishops University. If my name is circulating, very flattering, but this is not on my radar. I am not looking to go into politics. I've got a job to do here at the university, defending our interests and making sure that the institution has another 180 years ahead of it.
And we will leave it at that. Sebastien Lebel-Grenier at Bishops, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.